Welcome to the woods. It's boiling hot. It's about 30 degrees. It's a little bit nicer sat in the shade where I am, but it's great. I enjoy the sunshine. I like it. I don't mind it being warm. So I hope you've had time to get out and enjoy the sun and not just been slaving away at that 9 to 5. And I know it's difficult nowadays. I speak to people on a daily basis, so I get it that things are tough still, aren't they? They don't seem to be getting any easier. I spoke to a young man the other day who was kind of incredulous. He just had to take on a second job just so that he can make ends meet, so that he can afford to pay his rent, pay his bills, pay the finance on his car, and eat. Requires him to have two jobs because he's single. And he was saying that it would be much easier if there was two, if he had a partner and they could split the cost. But that the dating scene is just as insane as everything else seems to be. So, but that's not what I want to dwell on. Kind of. It is difficult, and I don't think it's going to get easier. I hope that's not a black pill for most people watching this. I hope you kind of already come to that conclusion that things are going to get harder, not easier. And I'm not going to talk about geopolitics. I'm not going to talk about Trump and America aligning with Israel, or the bombing of Iran, or the ongoing war in Ukraine. I'm not going to go there. And nor am I going to talk about Glastonbury, thankfully, because even I've heard enough of that. What I want to talk about is how we win, how we move forward, what can we do, what is being done, and why it's important to do it now. Because we recognise some of the problems, we recognise that we are living through the decline. For the accelerationists watching this, I'm not even sure there's going to be a big bang. I don't know if Betts is right with his Civil War predictions. Maybe. He seems to have aligned quite nicely with Gavin Bobie's thesis on a collapse, complete collapse, whereas Gavin seems to think that it will come through the government not being able to pay benefits or not being able to pay major players like the police, and society will just suddenly become feral, although parts of society you could say are already quite feral. And Betts is talking about how a civil war will divide along ethnic lines because of the problems we know we face. And as much as it's easy to look at that and see how it could happen, I don't believe it will. I don't believe the system will allow that amount of upheaval. But, as always, there's a but. I do believe that the system wants some upheaval. It wants some pushback so that it can crack down harder. And I think that's what it's gearing up for. I think that what we're seeing at the moment, and I mentioned this in the last video, there's a lot in the mainstream media, on the TV, on the radio, in the newspapers, and mainstream commentators online, talking about civil unrest, talking about the problem with demographics, talking about how white people will be a minority in less than 40-30 years. Those things are designed to get people worried, and we've known this for a long time. The general population haven't been aware of this, and I know that's mad, but they haven't. They're only aware of what they're informed of, and now they're being informed. They're catching on quickly, and they are worried, and scared people react. So they're pushing this into the mainstream for a reaction. And I don't think it's just a voting reaction that they want. I think they'd like to see violence on the streets. I think they're stoking a fire, and I think they're doing it on purpose. And as much as I said I won't talk about Glastonbury, that hiccup with Bob Vylan, when they say a hiccup, the BBC could have pulled that. That thing's got a 30-second delay before it goes out on the screens. They could have cut that at any time, but they didn't. And it's not so much the shouting about IDF, but the complete and utter put down to the white British population was again allowed to be broadcast in order to get you angry. They want you angry, and they want you in a position where you're likely to do something stupid. And at the same time as they're putting out all of this stuff in the media, stoking tensions, they're also introducing tougher, stricter laws, legislation in the background. And some of this we pick up on. We spoke in the last video about how now it's terrorism to be concerned about the state of your country, to be concerned that your culture is being eroded by mass immigration, is now an ideology on par with terrorism. So you can see how they put this stuff in the background and then stoke things to such an extent then when people do react, they'll have a reason to not just arrest and imprison like they did last time, but to really bring in draconian surveillance, restrictions, which is what they really want. They're building a surveillance network for digital IDs, for digital currencies, and we know all of this stuff is coming. So what do we do? Do we try to change it politically? Well, I think at the last count we've got about 5 right-wing political parties now on the right. All of a sudden, we had none, and now we've got 5. Why do you think that is? Do you think that's because the population has suddenly switched allegiance? The population will do exactly what it's told when it's told. If it's told to switch allegiance, it will. If it's told to be worried about something, it will worry. And if it's told it should be looking towards a civil war, guess what it'll be doing? So it's not that public opinion has changed, it's that public opinion is being changed. Now for us that might not be a bad thing. The 5 political parties are never going to do anything. They're there for a reason. To be honest, with that amount, the vote will be split so often and down to such a small amount that none of them will be capable. Each of them will be fighting for a diminished amount of votes. It's ludicrous. And exactly what we should have expected. We've spoken about how reform was a pressure valve, and that even if reform were to gain power, it's become more and more obvious that they actually wouldn't do anything different than what's gone on in the last 40 years. They're part of the system. Ben Habib's new party again is exactly the same. It's businessmen. Nigel Farage is a businessman. Ben Habib is a businessman. All of them, when you get to the top, it's all about business. And I've mentioned that before. It's all money and companies and directorships and power and money. That's what their game is about, which is all well and good for them, but it actually doesn't do us any favours, does it? Our lives today are probably harder than they've ever been, and I know people will in the comments will push back against that, but I've mentioned before that in the 16th century the average Englishman would have worked 6 months of the year and had 6 months off, and that sounds quite nice, doesn't it? And yes, his work would have been hard manual work in the land, but he would have had his own house and his own piece of land and fed his family and had a lot of leisure time. A lot, and some of that would have been spent doing craft work and to make more money for his family, and some of it would have been spent probably down the pub with his mates. And we look at today, after hundreds of years of improvement, of advancement, of all of those advances we've made in technology, in science, in medicine, and they've been incredible. The Industrial Revolution, the machines we manufactured, the things that we invented. Aircraft to take us around the world, cars to drag us from one end of the country to the other, the computer, the internet, the smartphone, Netflix, all of these advancements, and yet people are more atomized, they're more unhappy than they've ever been. The basics that made life worthwhile have been eroded. Community, friendships, finding a partner and spending your life together, raising a family. All of these are harder than they've ever been. People feel utterly exhausted. And they have to come up with medical terms for dealing with modernity. Terms like fibromyalgia, which seems to be an illness that means I find living today hard work. And everyone I speak to is exhausted. They're tired of everything. We know that things have gone wrong. We cannot wait for someone else to fix it. No one else is going to come along and fix the problem. And I am not just talking about demographics. That's one that has been pushed right to the front, right in your face, and it is desperately urgent that we alter the course. But there's many, many other aspects, many other issues. So how do you change everything? Well, you start. You start. Because as things decline, and they will continue to decline, things will get harder, things will get more expensive. You will have to take a digital ID. You will have to start using a digital currency. You'll be restricted on where you can go and when you can go. All of these things. Unless we build an alternative, a parallel system. And we cannot afford to wait until an almighty eruption, a collapse of colossal effect, before we start. It would be too late. So we start now. We start with community and friendships and family. We start by building businesses and employing each other and being loyal to those businesses, the same as every other group of people does. We buy land. That is ours. We utilize that land. We grow food. We raise livestock. We build homes. And yes, all of that is possible. All of that is being done. We've started. And as things decline and as things get worse, we will grow. More and more people will see that there is an alternative to the rubbish and the decay and the decadence that is on offer from this system. But please, don't sit around waiting until the time is right. Do it now. Get involved. Help us. The more people that get involved, the bigger we get, and the faster this grows. The bigger and faster it grows, the more people it attracts. Until you reach a tipping point where there's more people invested in the parallel structure and society than there is in this one. It has been done before. It can work. And in the scenario that we're facing, where things will get tougher and harder, it's something we can't not do. Because how you live your life in the future, how your children live their lives and your grandkids live theirs, is down to the choices that you make today. It's a big responsibility, but it's a fight we cannot leave for the next generation. And it is a fight. They won't make it easy. It will be tough. But it's worth it to build something better. And like I said, to see it in action, to sit round a campfire with families and individuals, all pushing in the same direction, all knowing where we're going, all on the same page with a vision for the future, which is a lot brighter than the one they want us to have. These things don't happen overnight. but they don't happen at all if you don't do anything. If you just sit and wait for either someone else to do it, or for the time to be right before you get up off your backside, it will be too late. We have to get involved now. We have to start building now. We have to build for our children's future, for our grandchildren's future, and for the future of our people into the next millennia. If you want someone else to make that decision for you, then the government and those global NGOs are already making it. If you don't want that, then you have to do something. You have to say no. We can do better ourselves. We don't need to fight it. We just need to step aside and build our own. We start now. And when their system collapses, which it surely will, ours will be left standing. I'll leave it there. Go and enjoy the sunshine. Please hit like, leave a comment, share it around if you can. I take it not many people like this channel. It grows and then I lose more subscribers than I gain every month. But I do my best. Till the next time. I'm going to be doing another video later, which will be posted up on the TWI website, to go through the restructuring that's going to take place in the next couple of months. Speak to you soon, you lot.